Hello, I'm doing a book review, and the book I want to review is Batman vs. the Undead. Now, Batman vs. the Undead is a graphic novel written by Kevin Vanhook and illustrated by Tom Mandrake, and of course published by DC Comics. Now, this was first published in 2010 in single magazine form, and it was actually published as part of the Batman Confidential series. Now, this book is actually a sequel to another Batman graphic novel, also written by Kevin Vanhook, called Superman and Batman vs. Vampires and Werewolves. Now, I actually have not yet read that book, because at the time I first got this book and started reading it, I didn't realize that this was actually a sequel to another Batman book, so maybe next year, because I do these Batman reviews every January, maybe next January, by that time I would have already read the first book in this series, maybe by then I'll review it, but for now I'm only reviewing the sequel to that book. Now, the plot of Batman vs. the Undead is it begins where Bruce Wayne is down in New Orleans for a charity event. Meanwhile, his alter ego, Batman, is investigating a former Arkham patient named Professor Herbert Combs, who I'm guessing was the main villain of the book that this is a sequel to. Once again, I haven't read that book, so I can't really comment too much on that, but basically there's this evil professor named Herbert Combs who was released from Arkham Asylum, and now he's down in New Orleans, and Batman is investigating into this. And it turns out that Herbert Combs is practicing voodoo, and he actually wants to resurrect an army of zombies and essentially cause a zombie apocalypse. So in the book, Batman ends up teaming up with a vampire and a werewolf to try to stop Combs. Now, apparently Combs is the reason that this person is a vampire, and the reason the other person is a werewolf. I guess that's stuff that was explained in the book that this book is a sequel to. And eventually Superman ends up joining them as well in their fight to stop Combs. So yeah, Batman vs. the Undead was definitely an interesting read, and I would definitely recommend this if you're a Batman fan. Once again, I haven't read the book that this is a sequel to, so I can't really comment on, or I can't really compare this to the first book because I haven't read the first book yet. But reading this as a standalone story, I would say it works for the most part. I mean, there's definitely references to the other story, Superman and Batman versus Vampires and Werewolves. There's definitely references to that, but I think for the most part, you can read this book as a standalone story, and I would definitely recommend it. Now, me being a big horror fan, I appreciated some of the references to different horror movies that were in this book, specifically the main villain of the book, Herbert Combs. Now, obviously, that's a reference to the actor Jeffrey Combs and the character he played in the film Reanimator. In Reanimator, he played a character named Herbert West, who of course was based on a character originally created by H.P. Lovecraft, and the main villain of this book, just the name Herbert Combs, it's obviously a reference to Herbert West and Jeffrey Combs. But yeah, Batman vs. the Undead, I would recommend it. It's a fun read. So yeah, that's my review on Batman vs. the Undead by Kevin Vanhook, and bye.